my Braille computer passed away. It was very sudden and unexpected. I'm gonna hold it up. It's a BrailleNote Apex for those of you who are familiar with Braille technology. So QWERTY keyboard at the top. Along the bottom would be Braille dots that would come up, but there are no Braille dots right now because it passed away. This thing was with me for 11 years. Last year of college, all through Harvard Law School, working at a law firm, speaking, traveling around the world, working on my book. It's actually amazing it lasted this long. A lot of blind people have teased me for using such an old computer, because since 2010, so many new Braille computers have come on the market. But all of them, almost all of them, don't do what I need it to do. What I need my Braille computer to do is to work with an external keyboard. I use it for communication every day. So people type on a keyboard, a separate external keyboard, and their words pop up in Braille on the Braille display. I read it on this display, and then I respond back by voice, maybe sign language, maybe computers, depending on how we're conversing and interacting. And most of the Braille computers on the market do not do that. They don't work with an external keyboard, and that greatly limits my access and all the other deaf-blind people who also need access like this. Let me add a quick visual description. So I'm filming in the backyard. You probably noticed all the bird sounds and maybe other outdoor sounds. My guide dog, German Shepherd Milo, is lying down on the patio. There's a wisteria plant kind of behind and above me, and plants all along the perimeter, some bamboo, some jasmine. When my computer stopped working, I reached out to the company that makes it, called Humanware, and said, "It's no longer working, can you fix it?" And they said, unfortunately, they no longer support it. These devices are super important to me. In 2010, the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation of California purchased the device for me because I needed it for my education. They are expensive. It was somewhere around $5,000. And it was so critical to my access to my education that I said, I need two. I need a backup one in case the main one I'm using stops working. And throughout the 11 years I've had them, that did happen. There was a time I was at a conference and a friend spilled her martini. It was a very expensive martini. And fortunately, she also had a Braille computer. So for the rest of the conference, she let me borrow her Braille computer so that I continue to have access during the conference. And when I went back home, I was able to switch to my backup BrailleNote and send the other one back in for repairs. So they've mostly worked well for 11 years, and then all of a sudden stopped working. My main one and my backup one. I actually don't know when the backup one stopped working. I only just recently checked it and it wasn't working either. About 2 years ago, I was on the Today Show using one of Humanware's old BrailleNote Apexes. So they reached out to me and said, by the way, we have a new device. It's called a BrailleNote Touch, and we'd like you to give us feedback. So I got one of those. It was incredibly generous of them because these are very expensive. So I'm holding up the BrailleNote Touch, and it has a Braille keyboard at the top. Along the bottom is the display, and my feedback was that it's bigger and heavier, and I preferred my Apex. So I hung on to it as a backup and continued to use my Apex. Weight and size matters when you are carrying the device everywhere, all the time. That weight on my shoulder, this device, plus the keyboard, that adds up over time and gets really exhausting. So my ideal device is light and small and fits in my bags and is easy to carry around. Because they no longer support the Apex, I now have to start using the BrailleNote Touch. And I'm just learning to use it now. It has a Braille keyboard instead of a QWERTY keyboard. Some people actually argue that it's faster to type in Braille on a Braille keyboard rather than on a QWERTY keyboard. Sometimes, yeah, because you have contractions, and contractions allow you to type faster compared to QWERTY. There is one other device out on the market that I know of that will work with an external keyboard, and those are the Braille Sense note takers, Braille computers from a company called HINS. And unfortunately, I've heard that those devices, the Braille that comes out when you are using the external keyboard is only in grade 1. That is a lot slower than grade 2 Braille. I can read grade 1, but it slows me down. And when I'm having a conversation or accessing information, I'd like it to be as efficient as possible. I'd love to have a smaller, lighter Braille computer that will work with an external keyboard. Maybe one day that'll be an option. But until then, you'll notice that I'll be using the BrailleNote Touch with a Braille keyboard instead of my BrailleNote Apex. Last year, someone from the Obama Foundation asked if I would like to contribute my Braille computer for their museum. It would be incredible to have one of my Braille computers at the museum because I took it to the White House when I was meeting with President Obama and President Joe Biden back in 2015. And I said, I'm really, really sorry, but HumanWare doesn't make the BrailleNote Apex anymore, and this is the best device for me right now, so I need to hang on to it. But if it stops working, that time has come. So maybe you'll be able to see this device at their museum.